Quick answer.
Well, you join us at Donington Park. Yep, sunny England. Wimbledon's on just down the road. We're in the Midlands, though. We're a little further north in Leicester. And we're at Donington Park, ready for the start of the 9th round of the World Superbikes. And it's getting pretty exciting, I think, don't you?
Yeah, definitely, with a few new entries this weekend, especially the young American guy, Blake Young, filling in the place of Fonsigneto. That was unexpected by me, but definitely a good move by Kevin Schwantz to get him into the fray. Yeah,
big news story. Obviously, Blake Young, from your point of view, you guys obviously have been talking to Kevin, I know that. And what's your thoughts?
We talked to him yesterday morning, I believe it was, and he gave us the rundown of the story, which was basically, you know, he and Blake were vacationing in Europe, as Americans are wont to do, and they went to Misano and were waltzing around the Suzuki Alstar Suzuki garage, and Francis Bata sidled up and said, "Hey Kevin, when are you going to get me a great young American rider to put on my bike?" And Blake was standing there doing what Blake does and said, "Well, what about this guy?" And before you know it, it was a done deal, and Blake sat on the bike and got all adjusted, and there you have it.
Well, it's interesting. I can follow up that story. I saw Blake today, and I think the sort of the reality of the whole deal, which sounded like a bit of fun at first, has suddenly hit in, because I was interestingly talking to Tom Houseworth, who, of course, would have probably been his race engineer had Ben not come over here. So he was saying that this is going to be a real baptism of fire, because he's never really ridden a bike as good as this, bottom line. And I think it's nothing like what he rides in the American Championship. And this is Tom talking. And I think to a certain extent, when I spoke to Blake, he kind of had the same feeling. He's like, yeah, I've looked at the bike, it looks fast, and I've looked at the track, and he kind of had this frown that started getting bigger and bigger. And I think, you know, I arranged to do an interview with him after practice, just because. And he said, well, maybe you should do it beforehand, because I don't want to be too depressed. But I think the reality of how tough this is going to be, you know, has come home pretty quickly. He's 21. Yeah, sure, he's in the American Championship, but he's been at Ben's house in Como, actually, the last few days with Tom and with Ben, and I think they've been kind of giving him a reality check that this is not like following Ben in the AMA Championship. There's a whole bunch of boys out there, and just to be anywhere close to Yukiya will be pretty impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. I mean, you take a look at Jake Zemke and look at Josh Hayes last year when he came over in the 600s. It's definitely not easy here, even with experienced guys like those. So this young guy, how old is he? 21, 20? Did you notice that we're drinking tea this week?
Yes, after, English tea.
Is it
beer down at Arno Tea this week?
Doesn't work with the mic though.
Is it tea time over there right now?
It's always tea time.
Maybe, Steve, you can speak to this that Kevin talked about. I asked him how different the bikes were, and he said, well, you know, they are basically super bikes that have two wheels, but he did talk about, say, the front end of the Alstar Suzuki bike is a full-on forks, you know, heaven, if you want, of adjustability on that.
Yeah, you're looking at that is probably one of the biggest difference with the AMA bikes. I'm not 100% sure on the rules on AMA, but I know that they're a lot more standard, especially in the front end area of the bike. Over here, we can change the adjustable offset triple clamp, which has a great effect on the way that the bike handles. The other thing, of course, is that the factory machine will have the full factory shower suspension, probably something which young Blake has never experienced before, so there's a lot more adjustability probably than he's used to, and that might take a little bit of a while to adapt, because there's a lot more options. His big problem is going to be learning the track whilst setting the bike up to suit himself, because there's so many different setups that you can have this machine in to suit him, that he has to learn the team. The track is not one of the easiest tracks on the circuit for sure. There's a few blind corners here, and the first part of the circuit through Kroner curves and all, and the first third of the circuit is, you know, it's a really gutsy track. You know, you have to have it on the limit to get a good lap time. We've seen many guys. The other thing with this circuit also is the first left-hand corner on the circuit. The tyres are quite cold, so it's technical in the fact that a lot of guys crash on that first left as well, because it's so far into the lap that their tyres are cold. So, he's going to have a lot on his shoulders. And on top of that, we've talked about it in the past, the quality of field here, it just doesn't drop off. Any one of the top 20 guys is a name that's won something in the past.
Yeah, take Shane Byrne, for example, who almost had a race win and was on the podium last round. He's nothing to sneeze at, being the last year's BSB champ.
No, not at all. And in fact, actually, there's some more young bucks coming in, wildcarding, particularly Leon Camia, who is flying at the moment on the Yamaha in the UK. He's already had, I think, the team has had 9 out of 10 wins. James Ellison, who I know you're very familiar with, is also in that team. He's had 1 win, but Leon's had the lion's share. Simon Andrews is also racing, and, Shane Byrne, Leon Haslam obviously does his race school here. The Brits are going to be a real factor this weekend. Rain or shine, and of course here at Donington, you never know. Our prediction today from most of the learned people, John Brown in the press room has been there for about 500 years, said there's going to be thunderstorms tomorrow and Sunday.
I know one guy that'll be smiling for the thunderstorms. That is Shaky Byrne, because we saw how he adapted to the wet Pirelli setup on that Ducati at Misano. He was absolutely untouchable. 10-15 second lead he had in Misano. So if it rains for the whole race here, if he can maintain that sort of form again, he should be able to pull away. And I believe he's got a really good opportunity to get 2 race wins.
Going quickly back to Blake Young, we had a Twitter from our SPK chat. Does Blake Young go on the company dime, or does he go first class? Well, given that he's been staying with Ben this week at Como, I think it's pretty second-class travel. I think the highlight of his week will probably be staying in Como, and getting a chance to talk to the big man. I think it's going to be economy all the way. I think this is a last-minute deal. But Kevin is coming. Kevin is arriving. I know he's doing the barber school this week, but he's flying in, and he will be there for Saturday. And of course, having Kevin in his corner will be massive. So he's on his own tomorrow, and he was a little bit worried about that. But having Kevin there on Saturday and Sunday, and obviously he's no slouch, and he's a very good guy to let you know how to get the intricacies and like you say, the best out of Donington. It's a really flowing circuit. To get a good lap here, you can't drop off. It's got to be. It's all about flowing here.
Back to Leon Camier and James Ellison. When they come into the championship, do they bring their own bikes, or do they have to? It's just their BSB bike, and they throw it into the mix?
Yeah, what you've got is basically last year the rules were different. Last year the BSB bikes had to use standard pistons and standard conrods. But this year the BSB have flipped back to World Superbike rules. So basically all the bikes are going to be pretty similar out there. So Leon Camier will be riding the bike that he races in the British Superbike Championship. And that effectively is the same bike that Ben Spies started off with at the start of the year. So both of those teams have a very similar package. From the start of the year, the British